Welcome to Cook Show with Alid Pink, filmed before a live studio audience.
Hello and welcome to Cook Show with Al Pink. So today we're going to be cooking a nice chocolate trifle. And now the thing about chocolate trifle is it's not actually a trifle. I lied to you all. A chocolate trifle, or this variant at least, isn't a trifle because it has no jelly. Actually that's it just doesn't have jelly. So it's super easy to make, like you just need to know how to put things together. It's like Lego, it's the Lego of cooking. Follow the instructions and at the end you've got a pudding. Wonderful. It costs under £5 and it's super easy. So let's jump right into it. So the recipe comes from Mid Wales actually. The recipe's official name is Mark's Chocolate Trifle. Don't worry about who Mark is, it doesn't matter. To start off with, we have Swiss roll. Now this is super basic Tesco's own brand. I've already opened it because I wanted some Swiss roll. It's just nice, and you don't need the whole thing really. This much should do us. The next ingredient we're going to have is some pears. These pears are in here purely because it makes it look at least a tiny bit not completely unhealthy. I'm just kidding. The pears really add to the flavour. They give a different texture. Once again, these are pretty cheap Tesco's ones. That's a common theme here. Then we have Oreos. Oreos are a vital part of this. I've gone for the double cream ones because they were on offer. But also available, well, also suitable, are the chocolate brownie ones or just like the regular ones. They all work because it's just Oreos, isn't it? And finally, chocolate custard. Now, it doesn't have to be chocolate custard like in a carton like this. I just saw it and thought, it's easier. But if you don't have chocolate custard in a carton like this, just get a carton custard, get a bar of chocolate, and like keep adding, heat it up in the microwave, and just keep adding chocolate until you get the right colour, and you'll see what colour this is a bit later on. And that is the basic ingredient list, so it's super simple. And in terms of equipment, well, what you need is a bowl. Actually, a bowl is not ideal. It's just a bowl is all I have. Sort of dish about this tall will do. Flat is better on the bottom. You're going to need a chopping board and some knives and that sort of stuff, but that's about it. Because in case you haven't noticed, this is super simple. So to start off, the base layer is the equivalent to a sponge layer of a regular trifle. Now, oh god. So for some context, I have to cycle to my local supermarket, and sometimes I fill up my bags too much, and I've got to like bungee one onto the back of my bike. This has been in a bungee accident. You can see where the bungee's been, but you know, we don't judge. Now, in terms of cutting, you may be wondering what tool you should use. We have this baby knife here. Lovely. Go for a slightly longer knife, an even slightly longer knife, an even longer knife. And you might be thinking, what knife do I use? You can use any knife you want. Just choose the one that looks most fun. You could even use a sword if you wanted to, but I don't know how well I would cut. It's not actually cut, it's just sort of collapsed inwards. And really, you're looking for that sort of thickness. It's not too important, but like a centimetre to just under a centimetre. Doesn't really matter how tidy it is. And we're just going to chop that all up. Now, if your Swiss roll is crumbling because you've whacked it too hard with a sword, don't worry, that can be used to fill gaps. Alright, so you know the bit earlier where I said you could use any knife? I actually recommend not using this knife. This is a chopping knife. Whilst cake you should be slicing. If you're chopping cake, you end up with squashed bits. So this isn't going to look the prettiest. It never was going to look the prettiest. So let's take this all to one side. And what we're going to do is we're slowly just going to add this around the base. This will be our base layer. Now if you're doing it flat, you just want it to be right at the bottom. You don't care about the sides. But seeing as we have the option to care about the sides, we're going to be building it up that way. Otherwise we wouldn't have enough Swiss roll in this. So as you can see, because of the fairly loose structure of a Swiss roll, it all just packs in nicely. Even these bits that were hit very hard with a sword. And I reckon we only want it to go up to this line roughly. So actually I'm going to cut a slice in half because this doesn't quite fit. And we're going to put it there. Just a bit there. It gives us a nice little bowl of Swiss roll. Next step is the Oreos. So you won't need 2 full packets of these. Just laying them in there, like that. So obviously with a flat bottom it becomes a lot easier. But we'll do the same way we start building it up around the sides. That doesn't look very good at the moment. Bear with me. I'm actually going to put these bits on top just because I have some slices left over. So this is a fun bit. You take your pears. Nice little ring pull. Remember to recycle the tin. But these are pear halves, and pear halves are actually too big. So what we're going to do, we're going to take one of our knives. So we're going to slip it in there and cut the pear halves in half. So you're essentially ending up with pear quarters. Now pears are soft enough, you can do this without any real chopping board. And like, it doesn't really matter. And we've got a pear quarter. We'll stick it in. Fish this one out. Stick it in. Don't worry too much about where they go at the moment, because you can just like reorganize them once they're all in there. You might be thinking, oh, I'll just make this without the pears. But trust me, chocolate and pear is a great combo. The texture is really important, otherwise you just end up with a soggy mess. The pears give it this nice sort of crunch, but it's not too hard. You might think the Oreos would give it a crunch, but they actually soften up with the custard and the pear juice. Really make sure that you get the ones in pear juice and not syrup. It's already sweet enough as it is. You really don't need to give it more sweetness. It's better for you if you do fruit juice as well. It's not good for you, but it's better. It really doesn't matter like how accurate you are, because like that's not really a pear half, is it? Alright. Got all the pear halves out of there. It's just the juice left in there. Don't throw it away yet. We want to be trying to place them as evenly across the dish as possible. This is just so that like you have got the biggest coverage of pear. Make sure that no one gets a slice without pear. I once made brownie and had like 3 slices of the brownie before I got any chocolate chips in it. I was very disappointed. It really felt like betrayal. I'd made that brownie and I was like, nah. And next we take the pear juice and we just drizzle it over.
Now this is important for making sure that the Oreos don't get very soggy.
So finally, this is what really makes the whole thing come together. We have the chocolate custard. Now I'm not very good at opening these. If you have a pair of scissors, I recommend using them and not doing it like I am. So really, do as I say, not as I do. And essentially, you just have to whack it on top. Now you want to try to get as even a coverage as possible. Alright, that is all the custard I'm going to get out of that. This might not look smooth on top. That's because it isn't. So I decided that wasn't quite enough custard, so I've used about another half carton. And really, apart from smoothing out the top, that's us done. If we look there, you can see like all the layers inside it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to wait for time to pass. It's got to set. That should be done in anywhere from an hour to a day. Like, you can leave it for a while before you have it. You can have it pretty much, I wouldn't say straight after, but about an hour after. And basically what it is so that the custard can seep down the layers and into the Oreos and into the Swiss roll. We're gonna wait now. And it's done. So, lighting might not be great, but if you look on top, because it's all smoothed over, the custard has separated out a little bit. But if you come down here, you can see how it's all seeped through every single layer and down into it. And it's just like that all the way around. It's wonderful. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a taste test. What you want to do is you want to take a big spoon like this, preferably without all the holes in the bottom. Hopefully the custard won't escape through it. I'm just going to slip it in there. And it is so soft. The only thing that really causes an issue is the pears. Alright, let's do our taste test. So I'm going to try and find a bit that has Oreo in it. And well, these aren't very soft pears. That's good. It might not seem like it, but the fondant of the Oreos actually becomes a different texture. It becomes harder than the cookie around the Oreo. The total price for this is $4.69, but that doesn't include the fact that I got 2 packets of Oreos for 50p instead of £1 because they were on offer, and you can do that as well. So you could cut £1 off it if you bought it at the right time. Also, it costs £2 for a carton of that custard, the chocolate one, but it's cheaper if you get a cheaper brand and add your own chocolate to it. And you can also mix it to get a better idea of what you want. You can have a much richer custard if you wanted, or a soft one. So you could cut it down a bit more, but I'd say an average price is about $4.69 because you don't need expensive Swiss roll. It doesn't help. You could go with more expensive pears. They might be softer. The ones I had in there were quite crunchy, but it's just luck of the draw. Secondly, allergens. Now, it should be fairly obvious. It's all on the packets of the things you buy. But as far as I could tell, it was literally just milk and gluten. It's not a good recipe if you are lactose intolerant because of the amount of custard. And it's not good if you can't have gluten because there is a lot of cake in there. You might not expect it, but there is. It only takes about 20 minutes to make, which isn't that long. It is essentially just putting it together. And I must admit, a lot of my time was faffing about with doing the pears in the tin. I could have taken them out, it would have been easier. And also getting all the custard out of one of the containers. In terms of difficulty, you've seen the video, it's just assembling stuff. It's way easy. I would rate it a 1 on a scale of 1 to an indeterminate number because it doesn't matter, it's the easiest thing alive. I'm going to rate it from 1 to 10, with 5 being the dead in the middle. 5 is an average score. Most foods should score a 5. So anything below a 5 is like, you don't really want it. Anything above a 5 is like, oh yeah. So this places on the scale 6. So for me personally, I really enjoy it. You might want to lower it down to a 5 or even a 4, depending on how much you like chocolate. I'm a huge fan of chocolate, but personally it doesn't go above a 5 because it doesn't feel that special to eat. It's kind of like, oh yeah, chocolate custard, but also Swiss roll, but also Oreo. It's nice, it's a good combination, but it's a combination, not cooking. It doesn't have the sense of rarity to it, and there is no sense of accomplishment to making it. You make it and it's super simple, but like, you don't, you know it's simple. You have that in your heart, you have to carry that burden with you, you know, that's nice. However, there's always that but on the end, and that stops it being a 7. Have any questions or ideas for recipes, stick them down in the comments. I'm going to be sticking the whole recipe down there, so you don't have to watch the video all the way through. You can just click on it, see the description, and there it is. It'll have a step-by-step process as well as the ingredients.